Well, if you paid attention to what happened over the weekend down in Alabama on Friday, yesterday on Twitter, Steph Curry, President Trump going at it, you knew something was going to happen today, and boy, did it happen. Forms. So Andrew Fillipponi, the Steelers chose to stay off the field in the tunnel behind Alejandro Villanueva. Did they handle that the right way, in your opinion?
A very tough question to answer. I will say yes, but only to a certain extent, because in one way, I agree with the idea of not singling players out and making them the subject of criticism. But at the same time, I think the Steelers, the message they sent here did not get across or through the way that they wanted it to. I think they were basically trying to say today, no comment. We're going to keep our guys in the locker room. We don't want to take a stance. We don't want to protest. But I think it's being received by fans differently. By staying in, a lot of people are looking at it as disrespectfully. So I think there are some unintended consequences here. They wanted it to mean something, and I don't think it's going over that way.
Yeah, people calling them the kneelers online, things like that. The Bears fans chanting USA, USA after the first touchdown. I think you're onto something there, Andrew, by suggesting it wasn't received as simply as Mike Tomlin tried to make it look. And since Villanueva has been put in the spotlight before because of his background as an Army Ranger, it might have looked awkward for him if he stayed there. So I got that part of it too. I wish he would have commented on it, at least publicly, because I think there's a lot of questions he needs to answer without us in the media putting words in his mouth. Look, I just can't believe we are at the point now where the NFL, its commissioner, its owners, its players, and the president have made the national anthem a song I'm apparently supposed to hate and the league into a game that I'm apparently supposed to boo. I have no idea how we got here.
I would have liked to seen them do something together. I understand that guys have differing political views, and I don't think it's one guy's responsibility to tell another one how to feel. But go out there together. Have a show of unity. If somebody wants to kneel and they feel like they want to make a political statement, how about the guy next to him putting a hand on his shoulder? Why don't you demonstrate something to show that you're talking about it? We can coexist. We can feel differently. You might be treated differently than that guy, but that's okay.
Well, you're right about that,
I don't like staying
Jason.
in a room.
You're right about that, because their comments did not actually reflect their actions today, because they said they were going to do something together, but they didn't.
I mean, they stayed in there together theoretically.
When Mike Tomlin made the initial comments to CBS, I thought he was going to stay off the field too. So I was really taken aback by the idea that the coaches were going to participate in the national anthem, and then one of their players did. So really, it was not unified.
Yeah, and another thing that happened here, and I get why the owners came out as publicly as they did in line with the players. They felt like their game was being attacked, and believe me, the commissioner and the owners of the National Football League feel like sometimes they're more important than the president. We've seen that at times in recent years, okay? So I get why they reacted the way that they did. I just don't know if it was smart, because if they don't do anything, if they don't literally lock arms with some of the players, I guess it looks good to a degree, but I also think this goes away faster, because aren't we starting to get conditioned to let Trump tweet what he wants to tweet and then just have it go away, because in 2 days he's going to tweet and call Kim Jong-un the Rocket Man again. But, you know, when they fanned the flames and fired back, this turned into the maelstrom that it was today.
That's exactly right. And Bill Cowher, by the way, on the NFL Today, disagreed with the way the Steelers handled it. I want to ask you guys about the Penguins, too, because they were caught in the crossfire here, and they came up with a statement that was not unexpected. Jason Mackey, you cover this team every day. Yep. You knew it was going to happen. The Penguins have said they will accept an invitation to the White House. And yet, no matter what you do anymore, you're going to get criticized. And they got criticized for that as well.
They did. And I think it's completely ridiculous, Bob. I think it's ridiculous because it's the office of the President of the United States. It is the White House. The Penguins aren't going there to stump for Donald Trump. If anything, they lean the complete opposite way politically. But that's not what this is about. And we're also comparing apples to oranges here. Hockey players talking about politics is so rare. The fact that even one guy, I think it was Blake Wheeler, tweeted something about Donald Trump, that made news in and of the fact that a hockey player talked politics. They don't do it. They get in line. Whether you like it or not, that's the culture of the sport. And I agree with the Penguins. They're going there for what the White House stands for.
The timing of it, the only question I have is if they're already on the record as saying they're going, why did they feel the need to double down on it today?
I don't think they were on the record, were they?
Yeah, they were on the record.
They were on the record.
Yeah,
I thought they didn't make it official. I thought they had said their
No, I think David
interests.
Morehouse.
No,
Okay.
Dave Molinari did a story right when the season ended, and David Morehouse issued a statement for that, and then in Dave's story with Ron
Well, then
Burkle,
why
he
issue a
reiterated
statement
it.
again today?
That's
Yeah.
my point, Bob.
The way I understand it is that the Penguins were asked multiple times by media outlets for their stance. What are they going to do in the wake of everything happening, and that they felt it was necessary to make a statement.
Yeah, I don't think that the Penguins have to assign the beliefs of the Steelers, or an NHL team has to ascribe to the same beliefs that the NFL does just because they happen to play sports. You know, everyone's allowed to have their view. And again, to Jason's point earlier, I mean, you mentioned the name David Morehouse a couple times, right, Jason?
Yep.
Which side of the aisle did he campaign for?
Yep.
So, I mean, like, I don't think there's a predisposed
It's
approach
not political.
here. It's not an endorsement. Like, there might be a lot of players on the Penguins team that are thinking, or might even say or tweet eventually someday, the same thing that LeBron did recently, which was visiting the White House was great until you showed up. So, I mean, they might think that themselves. We don't have to believe in advance that these guys are, you know, going to be on the campaign trail for Trump in 3 more years.
And let's chill out a little bit. A lot of these guys aren't American. Can we remember that? Like, do you think Evgeny Malkin, do you think it matters? Do you think it matters to Patrick Hornquist? It matters because it's the president of the United States, and that's cool. They're not going there to stump for Trump, as I said.
All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to go around the horn, and we have this week's Armina Stone Smooth Move, Pittsburgh's largest supplier of smoothest granite, marble, quartz countertops. You can count on Armina Stone. So we'll start with you, Andrew Fillipponi, your smooth move of the week.
I like the decision the refs made in the Falcons-Lions game, Bob. I didn't think that was a touchdown.
Very nice.
Golden Tate was stopped at the 1-yard line. Atlanta was able to hold on to win by 4 points.
Yeah, really smooth. Thank you. Smooth operator you are, Andrew. What about you, Jason? What's your smooth move?
I'm going to go with the NHL this week and their officiating blunders, calling 16 penalties in one game, and then finally getting it, realizing the games were unwatchable and toning it back a little bit.
I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley, that hurdle, taking that hit, sticking the landing. The best running back wearing 26 in the state of Pennsylvania is about 3 hours east of here, I think, right about now.
Well, he was spectacular, 358 all-purpose yards, and you got to say McSorley was rather clutch in that last drive, too. He had to score a touchdown, and they did on the final play. We'll talk more about that in the next segment. That is our Smooth Move segment of the week, brought to you by Armina Stone, featuring Pittsburgh's largest indoor stone gallery of granite, marble, countertops imported from all over the world to give you the smoothest countertops in the area. Score a touchdown with countertops from Armina Stone. Back with more right after this on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.